Hi everyone, welcome to the Reinvent You 7-Day Challenge. I'm your host Alyssa Sulli, and I could not be more excited for our featured speaker today, Kimberly Smith Austin. This woman is a powerhouse serial entrepreneur, successfully launching 8 businesses since 1999 and is currently in the midst of launching a new joint venture. Kimberly is passionate about helping people experience life at the next level and has successfully done so while wearing many hats. She is a podcast host, international speaker, business, life, and health strategist, aka coach, and author. Her book, Millions of Possibilities, helps you take your ideas from inspiration to monetization. When she's not putting in the work making a difference in others' lives, she is spending time reinventing herself and modeling the life that she so passionately inspires others to live. Welcome, Kimberly. We're so excited to have you.
Hello, Alyssa. Hey. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your 7-day challenge and, of course, Reinventing You. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Thank you. You know, I know that you're an amazing coach in so many different spectrums, life, business, fitness, health. But I know that you have your stories of when you've reinvented yourself in life, and you teach it, you preach it, you live it. And I would love for you to share a story today that you feel might resonate with the audience, that not only gives them perspective of I'm not alone in my journey of life and the struggles that I might be going through, but that I can reinvent myself, and maybe some tools and strategies that you use and that you teach to make a transformation in your life.
You know, Alyssa, I would absolutely love to do that. And when I thought about being on your show, a couple things came to mind, but there was something that just stood so hard and firm with me. And I thought I'd talk to you about it. Something about these transformations, these experiences that I've gone through my life. And I'll tell you, it dates back to 2011, which was the first time that I had to really look at reinventing. Now, before I even get to 2011, fast forward, I grew up in the city of Chicago. Very interesting dynamic growing up, I would say the least. That's the short, skinny of the story.
Okay.
But, you know, I feel like life is constantly a reinvention. The question is, what type of reinvention are you going to go through? Is it a full, a partial, or is it, you know what, self-denial? So I'm going to go back to 2011, which is probably one of the biggest reinventions in my life. I remember like it was yesterday. I'd gone to the doctor and had a follow-up appointment. And when I went to the follow-up appointment, my husband and I sat in Dr. Stone in this big white room. And he came in and he said to me, Kimberly, you have breast cancer. I remember it like it was yesterday. These lights so bright, the room so white. And I thought, me? I'm healthy. I eat, I'm a vegetarian, I work out, I don't smoke, I don't drink. How is this possible? Mm-hmm. You know, that was kind of what resonated inside of me. But inside of my spirit was something even bigger. It was saying, okay, so if this is true, because I think there was a little bit of denial there. If this is true, if this doctor knows what he's talking about, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What do I do with this? And, you know, he said to me right at that time, listen, we need to schedule you for surgery to get a partial breast removal, go through radiation, so on and so forth. And I remember at that time clearly saying to him, you know what, maybe let me get a second opinion. Let me go out and really see what it is I'm feeling led to do. I'll tell you, I went home and I had a season of, I'm not doing that. I'm natural. I'll figure out a way. I'll make it happen. I'll transform. But there was something deeper that says, no, follow the traditional medicine, follow the traditional approach. And Alyssa, I did. I went through radiation. I went through the whole process, but through it all, I remember feeling at the very end, like this overwhelming, like a cup boiling over, a teapot boiling over. And that at the end, there was something magical and great getting ready to come out of that. And little did I know it did. So I started one of my companies, which is Made to Be Fit. We are a corporate and community wellness company. And what we do is we teach people how to live healthy and happy life. by, movement, nutrition, mindset, all those great things. Now, that company started in 2010, kind of, sort of. See, I was given the name, I put it away and didn't do anything with it. Okay. 2013, which, remember, cancer diagnosis 2011, 2013 is when I actually fully launched and went full stream ahead, because I was given the message that I was made to be fit, that I was fearfully and wonderfully made. And that from that time of getting that message, that 2010 message that this was the name of my company, it wasn't until 2013 that I said, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to go and make a business and share this. And I went online. I remember clear as day. I went onto Gmail and decided to do madetobefit@gmail.com. Now, my 2 is the number 2 and the B is the letter B. And when I got there, it said taken. And my spirit was so crushed. So crushed. But there was something that said, use your password. Now, this is 3 years later. I put my password in and it opened. Oh my goodness. I was so excited because that told me that this belonged to me, that this was my space and was my place. And at that time, I knew it was time to reinvent. So cancer surgery happened. I went through the radiation for 7 weeks and I began walking again, right? I was a runner, athletic, and I began walking again. But doing my transformation, I helped other people begin their journey of walking and running and getting fit. So although I was helping them, I was reinventing me. Yeah. I had to go back and really look at, how do I start this thing all over again? And it was simple: walking. Walk, Run, Race was the name of my first program that I put out under that. And I'll tell you, it is now morphed into a serious training program, into a soon to come book. But it started there. Yeah. And it was such a point in my life where, most people, when they think about cancer, there's this concept of death. There's this concept of fear. There's this concept of being alone and not knowing what to do. And, there are times I had those feelings myself. But I knew that there was something greater. I knew that my purpose was so much bigger that there was no room for me to stop, that I had to walk, run, and then race to what was left for me to come. And that was kind of the start. That disease, started me on this journey of reinvention, on this journey of transformation and rediscovering who I am, who I was meant to be, and who I was created to be.
That's amazing. So it's like the blessing in disguise that we so often, we look at the challenges in our life and we can't even see beyond the current circumstance. But when we can just take little peeks and just explore a little bit and just step back slightly, we might be able to see that there's a window of opportunity. There's a door being opened. And for you, that's what cancer brought to you. You recognize that maybe the process is going to be different than how I might naturally want to proceed, but I went forward with it. I saw windows of opportunity to jump into this business. I'm helping others, I'm healing myself, and I'm reinventing myself through what looked like a horrible situation became a huge blessing. Wow, that's amazing. I personally have never struggled with, I have never had cancer, though I have had issues with my ovaries and I only have one, but I know that so many women struggle with breast cancer. They have family members or friends or even just any illness that we might come across, and we just can't see beyond what the current circumstance, because as you mentioned, that fear, that self-doubt, that uncertainty of, can I get beyond it? What was going on in your mind? How did you find that strength when moments were just really hard? Were you listening to something? Were you reading something? Were you just really focused?
A lot of things. One of the things for me personally, I'm a woman of faith. And so I look to the Bible daily for my inspiration. And every day I look to see direction. I look for insight. I look for guidance. And that was my source throughout that entire journey. And in fact, my journey since I was like 10 years old. but it got deeper and deeper. My also was my son. I dropped off my son to kindergarten, the very first treatment of radiation. And I remember clearly dropping him off and then driving to Encinitas in California, which is probably 40, 50 miles from where we live, to go to treatment every single day for 8 weeks. So I knew that, okay, I have a bigger source. My inspiration was my son, my husband. I had, everything that my life had already been. I've had a very successful life, as you heard, with my businesses and teaching at the university and coaching and mentoring. It was something that I knew that there were other people looking to me for their inspiration. And so I had to dig a little bit deeper. And my inspiration, again, coming from the Word of God and using that to fill myself up so that I can continue moving forward.
Yeah.
And it was such an interesting time, because although I had some concerns and some doubts and a little bit of worry, I knew that I wasn't fearful, because I knew, again, that I was fearfully and wonderfully made, and that there was a purpose for me, right? Mm-hmm. And I think even in the diagnosis and finding out the stage and things that I was doing, the doctor kept saying, everything you're doing is right, everything. I didn't have any family history of it, but yet it happened. And I remember the story, and I'll go back to the Bible, when there was a guy in the Bible who, he had gone through and suffered great loss. And someone said to the guy, well, was it his parents that caused this? Or did he do something bad? And the comment was, no, it was all for God's glory. Mm. And so I put myself in that seat. Yeah. Maybe there was no destination. Maybe there wasn't because of someone did this or someone had this. Maybe it was just me being an example and a model for others as I walked on this journey myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think you really spoke to the process of reinventing you, and that introductory process of, getting really clear on what you want. You knew that you wanted more for your life. You knew there was more meant for you, but you identified your why, and you can tell by your emotional state how connected you were to that why. And that's such a fueling catalyst to keep you moving forward. Your son, as you drop him off and you driving for 8 weeks to Encinitas to get the help that you need, the medicine, I'm forgetting what that's called again. What is that? The radiation. But he became your why. He became the emotional fuel to keep you going, to keep you striving forward. You knew you had a greater purpose, and you weren't allowing yourself to become a victim to life. You were allowing yourself to become an opportunist and look for the many blessings. I absolutely love that. I know that sometimes it's really hard to identify at the core of why we really want something, because we say we want something, but why do we really want it? What is our greater reasoning and purpose? And it sounds like when you know your why, it's really clear, and it just flows. You just feel it, and you just connect to that and let that help you in forward movement to reinventing yourself.
So true. The thing I think about as you say that is the fact that our mindset is a critical part of our process. Yeah. When you go into trials and hard times, we have to really get inside of our minds and really look at where we are, the dynamics that's going inside. What am I thinking? Am I creating chaos? Am I, avoiding it? Am I working through it? And when I think about one of the studies I just recently reviewed, it talked about one's mindset can actually help them overcome disease and any kind of conditions in their life. In fact, mindset is so intense that if a doctor who is applying the medication doesn't believe it's going to work, they showed some studies that it proved to be beneficial. So I went in with the mindset is, I'm coming out a winner. I'm going to beat this thing. There's nothing that's going to stop me. And I think that's my outlook on life, because I know that, yes, we are going to encounter bumpy roads in our journey through life. But if you go in like, oh, it's going to be another bumpy road, right, you're going to hit every bump there is. But if you go in saying it's a bumpy road, but I'm ready for the ride, and you're bouncing along the ride and you're having joy in the midst of it, it changes the experience completely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. I think it's so beneficial to be as positive as you can possibly be and to really focus your mindset on what you want to achieve. But I do think that sometimes that's overspoken and there's sometimes it's not. We go through our mindset, I believe we naturally, because of the history of life, we go into fight or flight mode when we go into fear. Absolutely. And it's that mindset piece that you're speaking to of sometimes it's not about me thinking super happy thoughts as much as it's getting really clear on what is the story I'm playing in my head. Absolutely. And what is the belief system that's fueling it. And I think sometimes, it's just kind of overlooked because I know that there's times when I'm really frustrated, I'm having a hard time. And like, I can look at everything I'm grateful for and I'm sorry. I just like at that moment, I just don't care. But then when I really dive deeper and I really look at, okay, I'm perceiving this as I'm scared I'm going to lose my life. And I don't want to lose my life. So how can I adjust that fear? How can I rewrite that story? And you're a perfect model of that. You rewrote your story in your mind. And so I'm speaking, it's not that you were saying otherwise. I'm just saying that you are exactly the model of someone who, it wasn't about mindset and always thinking happy, is that you had an action plan in your head and you weren't letting anything get in the way of you achieving the outcome you wanted. And you are proof that possibility is there when you can shift your mindset in the right direction.
Absolutely. I agree. And when I think about it, one of the key things I wrote down to mention today is with that mindset, one of the things that help us, and I remember us talking about this on a mastermind call before, is that when your memory kicks in, when you remember the journeys that you've had before and that you came out of them, or you remember, where life was before. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves, yes, I can, even though we're in a negative spiral in at that time or at that moment, maybe we're in the dumps. But when we kind of give ourselves, get our boots on and say, you know what, I can get out of this. I have, it can help us shift. Yeah. Because in the truth be told, no one can pull you out of it. It has to be an inside job. On my podcast, I recently talked about the difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation is an inside job. There's nothing I can say to you or you can say to me that's going to completely pull me out of that dump. I've got to make a decision inside of me to say, hey, I'm ready for a transformation. Now, you can help me along the way every time I give you the yes, yes, yes signal. But in the end, I've got to do the work. Right. Absolutely. And motivation is fueled by emotion, right? Absolutely. So 100%. Who's having the emotion? Kimberly is my coach. She's having her own emotions. I'm having mine I got to work through. Absolutely. And I wanted to speak to, when you talked about you creating that running group in 2013 and Made to Be Fit, and the baby steps you took, you started with walking. And then you progress to jogging and running. And it's a perfect model of, it's proven in science that when you can make micro steps, take micro movements, and you can stop and recognize what you've accomplished, you trigger dopamine in your brain and in your body, and it's a high. And that then fuels you forward and forward and forward. So again, I'm just speaking to that because again, this is you're modeling it through the different things that you're doing, and whether someone's conscious of it or not, someone's going through the Reinventing You process and they're just taking baby steps. If they can stop long enough to feel into that and recognize where they've come, and there's even studies on deer and how they get a dopamine hit when they find the water, and how they always know the trail back to the water because of the dopamine high. It's interesting. So I just wanted to that is so good. Oh my goodness. It's so very good. And I always say, here's the thing that I love to say is that when we find success or we experience success, it becomes addictive. Mm-hmm. Like that deer, he found the water and he was successful. It became addictive to the fact of, one, I need to go back and find that water again. But then we have those pathways that lead us back to that water.
Right.
Whoa, that's so good. That's so good. Which, if I can share, when I started the running group, I'd been a runner forever, 9 years old. But because of cancer, I had to stop running. I had to allow my body to heal. And as a process, I started walking, and I invited women to come along, men to come along with me. And of course, when they gave me the clearance, I'm back running again. But let me tell you what happened to me. Again, I saw success and I started striving for more. So I started with, I've been doing 5 miles for years. Someone challenged me to do a 10K. I did a 10K. Did it. Someone said half marathon. I said, no way. I'm not doing that. That's disgusting. That's double of what I just did. But there was something inside of me saying, can you do it? Remember that memory that I talked about? We have to go back and recall the success that we had. Yeah. And I said, I'll do it. So I did a half marathon. Then I did a marathon after that. And I thought, I'll do one a year, Alyssa. I went from 1 marathon to 3 marathons a year. Wow. To a half Ironman. And then the next year, 5 marathons, a full Ironman, 2.4 miles, and topped with a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a 26.2-mile run. And I thought, even to myself, I remember watching that on TV thinking, they must be insane. Right? They must be. But then I realized that there was something inside of me that if I could tap in, if I could, like you said, take a moment to pause, reflect, tap into that greater being that exists inside of me, those ambitions, that desire, that hunger, I could go to that next place. I could reinvent myself and become greater, better than I've ever been before. And I'll tell you right now, I'm doing things I never thought is possible at 50 years old, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think I saw you the other day and you're like, yeah, like I just ran 30 miles. And I was like, wait, what? But I went for a bike ride this morning and I'm like, wait, what? You're crazy, but I love it. Like, you're just such a great model of just reinventing yourself in life. And I know that you've had other journeys and experiences that, may resonate with someone. Do you have any other stories you might want to share or any other suggestions?
Do you have time? Let me pull back my chair.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've got tons of stories. And, and I think that's part of what makes me who I am. I wrote down 3 to talk about today. One was disease. The second one is divorce. And the last one is death. Mm-hmm. So when I think about divorce, I remember married in Illinois, moved to California. My husband and I, we had our son here. And my husband kind of was relocated for work up to Northern California. So we lived apart for about 3 years, but we commuted back and forth and visited each other. And I remember him coming to me, or better yet, not coming to me, but me getting a piece of mail that said that a divorce had been filed. Yes, a divorce had been filed on the court system. And it was one of those kind of attorneys trying to get on top of the case. And I got the paper and I was like, what is this? Coincidentally, he was home for the weekend and I went up to him and I said, what is this? And he immediately said, well, I've decided. Really? Absolutely. I see your face. That was exactly my sentiment.
Wow.
And, initially I was like, this is not real. Kind of like that cancer thing. I think I have a denial window that comes up first, and then I come to reality. Then I go back to denial, and I go through these cycles over and over and over again. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I remember clear as day. It was unreal. And we had a conversation about it and things that he was unhappy about. And I said, oh, those are easy. We can fix that. Nothing huge beyond our marriage. Nothing that, would tear most marriages apart. It was small. I didn't do this. He didn't do this. I didn't, in my opinion, petty things. But after talking for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours in a row, he had decided that he wanted to be married no more. And I remember sobbing like there was no tomorrow. I've never, ever heard those sounds come out of my body because, I personally didn't get married till my mid-30s. And I knew for certain that it would be a lifetime commitment. And that was my goal, my desire, my dream. And so I struggle with the idea of divorce. And I know there's other women out here and other men out here that may have gone through the same experience. And here I am, 2017 is when it got the first notice. It's 2020. We're still not officially divorced. But I knew that I had to reinvent myself. Oh, just a year ago, relocated again, still in California, but had to make some major changes, and throughout it all, my mind is constantly saying, what happened? What happened? I was putting in the work. I was doing this. I was doing that. But I knew that in the course of my marriage, we've had a lot of tough times. It was a very tumultuous marriage, probably from year 4 all the way until now would be year 17. I knew it, but I was determined because that's who I am. I was committed because that's who I am. I'm going to do the work. But when you have two parties and one of them doesn't agree, and one doesn't see the value of whether it's upholding the vows or working things out, there was nothing. Why isn't this working? Why aren't we reconciling? Why aren't we coming back together? I still don't have an answer. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, once again, that there's a purpose and a plan for me. That if I've gotten through my childhood, I got through this disease, that despite my desires, I can get through a divorce. I can. Again, these are all things that happened to me, supposedly, but I can move forward. I can move forward. I've decided that, and I am moving forward. Coincidentally, I got a call from the man right before the call, right before our time together. And I remember, and I have to brace myself for these calls, only because the energy that happens is not good. And I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't even take the call. But I braced myself and I said, okay, it's going to be a good thing. And believe it or not, it was a decent conversation. I was like, I can do this. I can do this.
That's awesome. That's amazing. You spoke to the cycles of reinventing you and how in life, like we all go through different circumstances it's not just one thing. And sometimes we think we've figured this out and then we're like, gosh, but another thing just hit the fan. Like, I didn't want that. I put in the work. You mentioned, I put in the work. But even sometimes when we put in the work, there's a greater purpose behind it all for us to become the next version of ourselves. And though we may not be able to grasp it, and especially in relationships, I know, I'm newly divorced myself, and I chose to leave the marriage. And I know that was difficult on my ex, but at the same time, he came to, as time went on, he saw it was just a greater purpose for us both as individuals to become the next version of ourselves, because we hit that cap together.
Yes.
And I think that's true of any relationship. Sometimes you are supposed to part ways. You became who you were meant to be as one here, but now there's another piece to you that's ready to reinvent yourself and step up the game and really show up. And so I love the whole message there of just, we may not understand, we may put in the work, but just trust in the process of life that there's something more, and look for that opening, look for that blessing in that door.
I agree with you 100%, because even though it may even sound like, I'm still at a point of denial, but truth be told is even in the midst of it, you still have to make a decision and decide where your life will be. I realized I couldn't be stuck in this rut. I have a son that I'm caring for solo. My mom lives here now. I lost my dad, which I'll talk about in a moment. And so all of this compounded, I had to. This was not I feel like it was a choice, but in some ways for me to live out who I believe I was made to be, I was forced to move forward. Yeah. And that's another place when your hand is forced and that for the greater good of those that you are entrusted to take care of, you have to move forward. And I think a lot of times it's easy to just sit back and let things happen to you.
Yeah.
There's a quote that says, you don't wait for things to happen, you make things happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all about creating my future, creating the life that I want to live and not letting someone else dictate it. Despite the turmoil and the, you know, the ins and outs of my marriage, despite it all, I still kept moving forward. There was a part of my life that sat here, but the other part of me was constantly still going forward, which is probably reason why, you know, in some ways, like you said, your husband and your ex and you guys came to that point where you realize, okay, we're at a plateau. Let's part ways.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What an amazing story. And you mentioned your dad and his passing. What was that like for you? And what was that story you had?
Well, I'm a daddy's girl, always have been. And interesting enough, I remember the morning my mother called me, and I had stayed out in the hospital, near a hospital, Loma Linda Hospital. My dad is a Vietnam veteran, and I stayed out there the night before, which I never, ever had done with my friend's family, my son's friend family. And my mother called probably 5:55. I remember exactly. It was 8:08 at 5:55 a.m. And she said, he's gone. So he'd have an ailment, he'd go find out what's going on and then disappear, never go back ever again. And this has been the repeat of his life forever. So he had been sick a while back, and you know, I was like, well, he's okay. And we kind of went back and forth, and I talked to him, he's fine, but he's been an ongoing complainer about little issues for years. So it was no big thing. It was like, oh, it's just dad. And I remember my mom calling and giving me this news, and I'm like, what? Why? I was angry. I was really angry. And I don't know why, but I was like, oh, what do you mean? He's gone. What happened? Why didn't you call me? Was he sick yesterday? You know, and only to find out that the day before he was well, he'd walked to the store, he was fine. But it was something inside of me that just blew up, that initial finding out of his death. But I was 10 minutes away from Loma Linda Hospital, which is a veterans hospital. And I know God set it up, because I went into that hospital and took care of my father's affair within minutes. And never, ever had been in that hospital, never, ever dealt with the VA. Even though I'm an Army vet, I don't really utilize my benefits, and instantly took care of it. But I know at that time, it was just, wow, overwhelming that this is real. My dad, the love of my life, the example, the joy, he was gone. And so yet here I am again, encountering another time where I had to reinvent myself. You know, I am so much my daddy's child, and I am so much like him. But what I love is that the memories that I had outweighed the fact that he was gone. I had something to hold on to. I had something to remember him by. And so a little bit of him stays with me every single day. And so when I think about disease coming into my life, there was a purpose, even though I didn't see it. The divorce, there was a purpose in death. All of these things have really allowed me to reshape and really refine who I am, and recognize that despite it all, I had to rise up. I had to rise up to be all that my son needed, my mother needed, and the world, the people that I serve need. And I didn't rise up out of I'm brave, but because God said to me that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that I can do all things through him. And I've tapped into that superpower to allow me to rise up and experience life at the next level. And so when I'm coaching with clients, you know, I use my examples from time to time, but I really like to look at where they are right now. And I like to help them remember. I like to help them refresh their thoughts and then think about how they can rise up. What is it that you can do to move yourself from right here to where you need to be? Because everything we need, we already have. It's already inside of us, Alyssa. But it's knowing how to tap into it.
We just haven't tapped into yet.
Absolutely.
And these experiences are giving us that opportunity. And I love that you spoke to, and I know before the podcast, you talked about life after the 3 Ds: disease, divorce, and death. And I think so many people can resonate with that message and that story that you share, these stories that you shared today, and the process of reinventing yourself and the power that you have within you and the blessings behind it all. Is there any other tips or suggestions or thoughts you want to wrap up with that you had?
I would really want to encourage people to, as I said, remind yourself, refresh your thoughts, and make a decision to rise up. But I think in it all, we have to make that decision that we're going to get back in the fight for our life.
Yeah.
As a breast cancer survivor, I have these pink gloves. I'm wearing this pink, but I did a seminar for the American Heart Association. And one of the things I challenge people to do is fight for your life.
Yeah.
Fight for your life. Depression, anxiety, all these things can take a toll in our lives and take over and cause us to just really forget who we are, forget how powerful we are,
Right.
and cause us to just lose hope. But there is hope. There is something that you can lean on to. And I just want to challenge people to do that. There's nothing that will stop you from experiencing life at the next level. The only thing is you.
Yeah.
So we've got to tap in. We've got to allow ourselves the time to reflect. And one of the things that I think about in relationships is so often that a lot of times we're trying to heal the wound that we run off and get into the next relationship.
Right.
We don't take the time to say, okay, who is Kimberly?
Right.
What do I need? How do I need to serve me and the world around me before we step into a new relationship?
Yeah.
And so I challenge people to really take that time. That has been my saving grace through all of it. I love to soak in a bubble bath with lavender essential oils flowing and music and a good book in my hand. That is my joy. That is my replenishment. That is what brings me back to life. From the physical, the mental, the spiritual. It's just amazing that we can, and I say we will. And I'm here to help anyone on their journey, as you are, Alyssa. I love the relationship that we have, that we've been able to connect with each other, even for a short period of time, and refresh each other in our journeys and help each other move forward in life.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful message you had today. Thank you so much, Kimberly. I know that this audience is going to gain so much from the valuable knowledge and the way that you serve. Where can they find you for more information?
Well, I'm a couple places. I am on social media in all channels at Kimberly Smith Austin. I'm Kimberly with an E. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it, Twitter. Now, I will tell you, I've been on a little hiatus, but I'm coming back.
All right.
Content there. You'll see content. So I've been out there for a while. On top of that, my new book, The Millions of Possibilities, and that is at millionsofpossibilitiesbook.com. Also have a podcast. I have a couple podcasts, but the one I really want to share is called Made to Inspire. The number 2, the letter N, Inspire.
Nice.
And that is really where you can find me, Alyssa.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, I'll make sure to provide some links inside our video as well as below in the information section. But again, thank you so much, Kimberly. You are an inspiration. You are a motivator. You live what you teach, and I can't thank you enough for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me, my friend. I love you. I appreciate you. And let's go walk this life together.
That sounds great. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.